exciting show, real conversation, real entertainment. Of course, you know Devon, aka DNYCE, and I do a lot of events in Harlem, the Bronx, the Tri-Borough, basically anywhere and everywhere. I also do find places that I think that I can do it with respectfully, decently, and I have found one place that I really kind of like a lot, and it's called Londel's, and I have him here today with me. So I want to ask him questions and also introduce him to you all. So because he's a pioneer in Harlem, and he's been doing this thing for so long, and he's been keeping it up, and I just gotta respect him for that, because a lot of black men, so-called black men, we don't have that in Harlem. Most of Harlem is all different ethnic groups that came over and basically set up shop. But Mr. Londel Davis, I want to ask him a couple of questions. So with no further ado, I want to introduce him to you. So D-Nice, real conversation. I'm introducing Mr. Londel Davis.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank Devon for this opportunity to give you a little snapshot of who I am and where I came from and what I'm trying to do in my community.
Okay. So I would like to know, how long have you been? First of all, where is Londel? Londel's is at what?
Londel's is on Frederick Douglass Blvd, formerly known as 8th Avenue and also known as 8th Avenue, between 139 and 140 Street.
So 140th Street, like 8th Avenue.
8th Avenue, right.
Right. And you've been in business how long in at Harlem and on the black community in particular?
Well, I've actually been in business in Harlem for 40 years. I started a small place on 8th Avenue.
And what type of establishment do you have?
Londel's Restaurant will have an anniversary, 26 years, this coming fall. It was started...
you said this fall in 2021? This year?
2021 will be 26 years. I've been in business in Harlem for 40 years, actually. My first endeavor was a small restaurant about the size of my office. It was called Deli Heaven, and my nephew and myself actually started it. I was everything to it. I was the so-called chef. I was the dishwasher. I was the delivery guy. I was everything. And my nephew, he was also a big attribute to it, because actually we both were new to the business, and we learned as we went along. It was like on-the-job training, or I refer to it as 4 years of college.
Well, can I interject? So you're telling me when people do this is the new and upcoming black entrepreneurs or people just trying to get in the restaurant, bar industry, or any business, you suggest that they should learn, even if they don't know, they should just get into it and learn as they go sometimes?
Not at all. I would not recommend doing the way I do it, the way I did it, I'm sorry. I always recommend the people that come to me for advice and on how to do this thing, I always say, get some education. Take some business courses.
Like accounting, business.
If your endeavor is culinary, I would recommend that you find a good culinary school, because they will expose you to all the variables of this business. It's extremely difficult. It's like an octopus with a lot of different tentacles, and you have to be prepared to deal with that.
So not only that, so just having a good chef, having a good bartenders and waiters and waitresses. So I'm assuming that's a heavy task to do, because a lot of people don't really know how to do it. So, and I notice while in your bar, I see a lot of you train on them a lot, and you try to teach them the correct way.
Well, I remember when LeBron James was on Oprah's show, and she asked him, was he going to go back to school? And what he said was, I have a good crew, so I put all my faith in them. I have good attorneys. So she said, wouldn't you want to read the contracts? So I'm fortunate. I'm fairly intelligent. I did graduate from college, and I did spend some time in culinary school. So that's actually a plus with me as opposed to a lot of other people. But I still sometimes feel inadequate because since I've been here, I've had people in place that manage the business.
You mean been at Londel's and all the rest of your endeavors? Even though I know it's a headache doing it, but since you took on that initiative, I got to give you credit for that. Now, thank you for that because you've been in business, like you said, 40 years, and you had how many? Well, right now, currently, you have how many established? 2 establishments now.
Well, one time I had 3. Now I have 2.
Now you have 2, and you always, because I noticed you do have. You try to get your people working. I do like that about you because, everybody know my show's called Real Entertainment, Real Conversation. And I like to keep it real with our people. Like everybody else uplift their people, but it seems like nobody's here for our people the way I see it. Because it seems like most of the time, like in Harlem today, how many black restaurant owners is it? Like, how many are there today? 2, 3, 4?
No, I think it's a few more than that. I think it may be
longevity like you did.
It may be. I mean, there's several, but the difference and those guys and me, I'm homegrown. To use a phrase that one of our former elected officials, Keith Wright, used to say, we're homegrown. We're from this community.
Right.
There's only one other person who I probably say I stand on his shoulders. There was a fellow over on Western Avenue, not Western Avenue, I'm sorry. I guess it's Manhattan Avenue. His name was Mr. Perkins.
Yeah, Perkins,
and Mr. Perkins, he actually contributed to the black middle class coming back uptown to Harlem to socialize.
Yeah, now you're going back about 15, 20 years now, but I remember Mr. Perkins' place. It was very nice, upscale. And he's the type of guy that you like and admire. And if any future people, entrepreneurs, is interested in the business, do you recommend that our people, which I'm like a stickler for this, I notice a lot of our people open up restaurants and open up these little clubs, but it be low scale. It don't really be classy and upscale. You know what I'm saying? It's just not there. So what would you recommend to these people that's coming in? Do you recommend that they try to have a higher standard, or they just go with the regular flow, just open up and try to make the money off people without giving quality to the service? Like downtown, Lower Manhattan, I'm referring to.
Well, I've been fortunate over my life, over my 75 years. I'm going to have a birthday soon.
Mm-hmm. You're a Gemini like me, huh? It's interesting. No wonder we clash a little bit, but it's okay.
Well, I have twin sons too, so I'm a real Gemini.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, they always refer to me as sort of like an uppity Negro.
Okay.
And I don't see myself as that. I see myself as intelligent. I'm sort of like a go-getter. I'm very aggressive.
Independent.
And I tend to be independent. That's not to say I don't need people.
Right.
I always use the phrase with my customers, without you there'd be no me. Because literally, I'm in the northern end of Harlem.
Right.
When people used to, 1/4 and 8th Avenue, and most of the people, when the migration first started coming back uptown, they were on the southern end. So I'm up north. So I always say people need a reason to come to Londel's. I have to offer them something that nobody else does.
And you do.
And a lot of times, Devon asked me a question about why do people open places that cater to a certain type of individual. We do parties for everybody. I've even done bar mitzvahs. Those people live in the projects. They have birthdays, people die, and whatever. So when they come to me, regardless of their station in life, I'm going to treat them just like I want to be treated if I was going out. I can't speak for anybody else and what they do. There's an owner up here. He has a fine dining establishment as far as I'm concerned. He doesn't interact with the customers.
That's what Londel's
You know,
offer to people. So you do offer them fine dining, and where if I'm interpreting you correctly, no matter what level that our people on, you're still going to say you're keeping the quality and the staff and the business at a fine dining level for whatever whatever event that you want to have, or whatever you do, because he has, from what I understand and can see for myself, because I'm also giving me my birthday party as well as my reopening of my new show, Real Conversation, Real Entertainment. I'll be here on June 18th, and if anybody's out there and you want to see it, you can come by, because I do free admission, because I want you all to see. Man, how an upscale restaurant looks up in Harlem. I'm not saying there's not any, but a black owned, because I don't want to make it a racist thing, but in reality, we have to deal with this. We got to start supporting our own people, just like other nations support theirs. Do you agree with that?
I firmly believe in it. I actually, when I was in the police department, I was in a special unit, and
you was in the police department too, as well.
I was a police officer as well, and I'm a veteran.
Okay, you're a veteran. All right, he's a police officer. He's giving us more information. Right,
I was assigned to a special unit. It was the Hispanic and blacks, and it was actually started by one of the first black chiefs in the police department. His name was Eldridge Waite.
Right. And this in Harlem, right?
It was in Harlem. In fact, we not only Harlem, but we went from the whole Manhattan North, and we had from 59th Street all up to Riverdale. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
that covers a lot of territory.
His theory, his attitude was about empowerment. And the key is we have to empower ourselves. If nobody else will.
Right. So why do people feel like they don't want to do? Why do they think that somebody owes them something? And I want you to address that, because that's an interesting thing you just said. Why?
I don't think it's about I owe them anything. I think there may be some quid pro quo in there. If they have a party, they want to get a discount, or they want to get something extra. Right. That's like human nature. This negotiation principle. I'm a little different from, as I said, I'm homegrown, so I speak the same language as the people here in the community. My kids was raised up right here on 8th Avenue. My two sons and my daughter.
Yeah.
So I'm back where I started, where I grew up, where I played up and down these streets. Even as a police officer, I used to talk to people. I interacted with them.
They trusted you?
The people that I arrested, they come back and thank me for arresting them, taking them away from this environment. They moved on with their lives, and they got themselves together, and they became productive.
God bless you for that. That is, I appreciate brothers and sisters that do that type of thing, because I do reach back myself, and like I tell everybody, I haven't been squeaky clean. I came from the world, but it's always something that made me want to change. It's because God always talks to me, and I always try to give back as much as I can, just like you do, Mr. Davis, Londel. He'd been a police officer. You have a father of what? How many kids you have?
3 kids.
3 kids. Your 3 kids. Tell about your family, your history, and
my sons will be 51 next December. They're born on New Year's Eve. My daughter is 24. I have several grandchildren and 5 great-grands. So I'm truly blessed, and this is another reason I do what I do. When my father died when I was 7 years old, and I didn't even get Social Security. My mother was on welfare the whole 9. So hopefully Londel's will be a foundation or a catalyst for my great-grandkids. If they want to go to college, I don't want them just to go to a mediocre college. I want them to go to a decent college, because hopefully the funds will be there to help them to do what they want to do.
Well, I'm sure you're going to make sure that, after all the life that you came through, your comings and goings, that as we all deal with this, because as we get older, we have to have some type of reservations for our children, and then hopefully they can, continue on the empire that you have. But I know I see your 2 sons, and they look like they know what they're talking about and know what they're doing. They're in the politics, I think. One of them is?
Well, one of my sons, he's the chief of staff for a state assemblywoman Inez Dickens, and the other one, actually, he retired from the New York City Sheriff's Department, and he also helps Inez out with her campaign financing.
Good, good. So you did a good job. You basically, how you say, groomed them, and they're positive. So you can be proud of them at this point. Because a lot of men can't say that. You know that.
Well, children are like a plant or a tree.
Right.
You have to nurture that tree. You have to put your hands into the soil and turn that soil. And you have to stand back and watch it as it, like the rest of it grows and bears fruit. I was always in my kids' lives. And this is an issue I have today with parenting. Kids should be nurtured when they're in their mother's belly. I see women when they're when they're pregnant, and they're always rubbing the belly or they're singing songs.
Or talking to the child.
Or talking to the child.
Yeah, while they're in the stomach, yeah.
So, like people always say, these kids, they're nice to come here. But once they get here, you have to be a good parent. I've always felt that my kids should mirror image me.
I gotta ask you
and
something.
The biggest compliment, I'm going to finish.
The
biggest compliment I can give is that you have fine children.
Now, do you think today's children or teenagers or the young people, because today they're radical, they're not really listening to the elders and the us generation, the ones in our 40, 50, and 60, 70. They seem to be rebelling against us and saying we're old school, our thoughts and our way in which we're doing things, that they don't want to hear that no more. They seem to be, I look at them as rebels without a cause now. And they rebel against all that things, everything you just said.
Well, I'm not just going to speak on our kids of black and kids of color. Caucasian people, Jewish people, Chinese, they all have the same problem with their children. I'm not saying that I am any stretch about the imagination a psychologist or I know more than the next guy. But what I will say is I gave my kids tough love. I remember when Donna Ross was on a talk show. She said, when I pray for myself first. Because where would my kids be without me? And that makes all the sense in the world.
Okay.
Now, I'm not, my kids haven't been perfect.
No kids are.
But when they made missteps, I was right there. My daughter's the same thing.
You was like a gardener. You kept watching the plant, right?
This restaurant, I tell people it's like my child. And it is like my child because it requires a lot of nurturing, time, patience, consideration.
So it didn't happen quickly for you. So your success took long.
Nothing good comes fast.
Right.
It's a process. It takes time. It's a building process. And this business especially, it gives a lot, but it takes a lot. And that's what you have to understand. People see the glamour. Mr. Londel,
the money.
He's got a nice car. He wears these bow ties, all these clothes and stuff.
Right.
That's part of the uniform. Everybody that works in my establishment has a role to play. I don't demean anybody. I tell everybody they have value, especially to this restaurant here. I didn't do it by myself. Even though the first little restaurant I had, I did most of it by myself.
So you start to do most of your stuff by yourself. Say that again, and then keep going.
When I had my first little place, I did most of it by myself. But even though my nephew was there, and my sons would come in on the weekends, and they would clean, and sometimes they work behind the counter. They don't like it now because they have to do that.
I was about to ask you that. But if they're going to be part of the new regime, because, I hear what you're saying, but this is going to be one of 3-part interviews because Mr. Londel is a very interesting man. And I can't get everything in on one interview. So this is the first of 3 interviews, and we will continue it. But now I want to go into something that's deep that people need to also hear, because I like to always do it. How do you feel? Are you a spiritual brother, or you just work off of, like some people go, well, I just deal with things. Do you have faith in God? What keeps you strong? What gives you the inner strength to continue on and do the things you do? Because it takes some type of fortitude inside a person. So what is your base, power base that you operate from?
Well, I always use the expression, I wear this cross because at one time it was the death sentence to wear a cross, to be killed for that. I always say that only by the grace of God go I. Now, I won't elaborate on that. Okay. Hopefully, the next time I get to talk to
would be the second part of the interview. So, yes, we're going to get into that.
I'll talk about faith.
Right.
And I must give a plug to my pastor. He's going through something right now, and if you people of faith watching me, I ask you to pray for my pastor, Reverend Calvin Butts. I'm an Abyssinian member for 27 years. In fact, to show you how strong it is, I used to smoke. When I first started, I was smoking.
What do you mean with smoking?
Smoking cigarettes. Smoking cigarettes.
I'm sorry.
And I would walk into church every Sunday. I would walk into church every Sunday, and this one minister, God bless him, he died too.
Right.
And he said, "You smell bad," because he can smell the nicotine.
Right.
So anyway, I stopped smoking after about maybe a year, and that was a blessing.
Good, because a lot of people don't understand that cigarettes is a killer. Like a lot of other things is killers, But it's just so much I have on my mind. I asked Mr. Londel, I can't get it all out because this is. I want to say so many things, but I got to get back to the restaurant because I'm in his restaurant now. I'm in his office. He has a lot of salutations. He got awards. As a matter of fact, I'm even going to give him a plaque myself. June 18th. I didn't want him to know it, but I'm going to give him a plaque because I call it Real Entertainment, Real Conversation Awards for committing to our people and being an uplifting person and an image. Now, a lot of people don't like businessmen like yourselves. I don't even know if it's that's the right way, because a lot of people are envious of businessmen, especially our own people. Because other nations have their businessmen, they look up and they support them, and they don't talk about. But for some reason, our people always backstabbing and talk about our home country. What do you think? Is that crab in a barrel type of mindset, or is that something we all need to work on and move forward up to address? And how can we address it? And that would be probably one of the last questions that I'm asking. So I want you to address that if you can.
I don't know.
How did you?
I will say.
How did you deal with it?
I will say.
Thank you.
I came out of this block right around the corner. In fact, where my little dining room is, I worked there as a kid. I think I was 11 years old, or maybe it might have been 10. And I carried groceries and kept the store shelves full and stuff. I go to that block, I may go to the post office, and I always get flashbacks to when I was a child, when I was a kid. Running up and down that block. And every Saturday, they played stickball, three swords.
When you didn't have no responsibility.
Chinese times, but I always have responsibility.
And not like
my mother, like I said, she was on a fixed income, and I started working when I was 11. I was 10 actually. And my brother had gotten a job first, shining shoes, and he bought a pair of shoes, and I was envious of him. So I got me a job, and I started buying myself. But anyway, getting back to the block, I would go through that block, and people don't speak to me.
Right.
And I remember them from way back when. There was a building in that block next to the post office. And they were supposed to renovate it, but the building became condemned, and they tore it down. The post office wanted to make it a parking lot. So at the time, my pewmate was Virginia Fields. She was the borough president. So my idea was to take that lot and make it a kiddie playground. Because I've always felt that these babies from the womb, these toddlers, they're salvageable.
Did you do it though, or that was a thought? I'm just asking.
I got Virginia Fields to finance that project. She passed legislation for it. The stumbling block was the block association. They said, no, that's going to be our setting place, and you put yours up the street, you can't put it here.
Well, to give you opposition, that's sad.
So then somebody said, well, Mr. Londel, they couldn't get insurance for the playground or even the singing area. I said, that's nonsense, because all these playgrounds and parks are under the same umbrella. It never happened. We could have saved, I don't know, we saved 50 little kids from dead end. It would have been a great thing.
Right.
It wasn't about me. It wasn't naming some playground out of me. It was for the children. That's my little story. Thank you very much for having me. I'll be back again.
Yeah, this is part one of a 3-part series interview. So let me just give you back again a recap on Londel's Restaurant is at 140th and 8th Avenue. What's the exact address?
2620 Frederick Douglass Blvd, also known as 8th Avenue.
And you have another establishment that you
have? I have another establishment, which is the lounge. That's on the southern end. It's called L Lounge. Has an elevated lounge for the customers right up down 8th Avenue.
And the location, exact address?
2131 Frederick Douglass, also known as 8th Avenue. The corner of 115.
That's so it's 2 locations that he has, and okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so it's 2 locations that he has. So anybody is interested in doing any rentals, any parties, what else would you're available to
well,
the people?
we do all kinds of celebrations here. We have one of the biggest. We do several different functions here, including repasses, and we did a lot of those since this thing with the COVID. Birthday parties.
Yeah, a lot of political stuff too.
We're very involved in the community as far as the political arena now, the mayoral race.
Yes.
The city councils, as well as the other races as well. We've done several fundraisers here already.
Yeah. So basically, Londel's is an operation, bar, restaurant, and I guess you would refer to it as a rent-to.
We rent. We don't usually charge a rental fee.
Right.
Usually, just to take whatever food, beverage,
and you can make a deal. You can make a deal with them. Excuse me, put the mic to your mic, please. And so, give the people the contact information, your emails, your cell phone, or your business phone that you have, just in case they want to talk to you, set up any arrangement they can have.
My office number is 212-234-0601. Our cell number is 646-623-8558. And I do answer my cell phone. I also have an email. It's Londel, Londel, just like my name. The letter D as in Davis, my last name, at AOL.com. And I do answer my phone.
Okay.
And I look forward to hearing from you.
Do you have a website? Do you have a current website?
The website is LondelsRestaurant.com.
Okay. So that concludes the first part of a 3-part series. You know, it was an interesting conversation, and it was real. I always like to do real conversations, real entertainment. I'm at Londel's Restaurant, 140th and 8th Avenue. So you can contact me, and if you want to come to my birthday party, which I'm also having at Londel's, and that's on June 18th of this year, 2021. That's on a Friday. And basically, we're going to have entertainment. We're going to have Boogie Black. We're going to have 2 comedians. I'm going to do gifts. I'm going to do free pictures. You know, I'm going to show the love to our people. So anyway, this is another exciting interview. I thank you all. Grace and peace. Thank you.